So the first one is from Mike. It says, what are 2 or 3 methods? This would be interesting to hear Patrick's take on this too, because I think one of them he's going to have is going to be similar to mine, if not the same. What are 2 or 3 methods you would use to prospect for clients if you were starting over? I want to create a pipeline, but as a one-man operation with some part-time VAs, I can't dedicate someone to it, but I know I need to do it, and I probably want to have more than one source of leads. So as I've talked about dozens and dozens and dozens of times on this Hump Day Hangouts and anyone that'll listen, the most successful method for me, for my agency, has been creating a niche specific directory in my targeted industry. And then using the directory for outbound prospecting, not as a marketer, not as a salesperson, not as an SEO, but as a support technician with the directory to confirm the contact information for their free listing on the directory. And so essentially we do cold outbound outreach using the directory, just asking them to confirm their information or correct inaccurate information. And when I get a reply back from that, from the cold email outreach, then I know I've got that. It automatically goes into a sales pipeline, and we start the warming sequence, the nurturing sequence, and all of that. And so we start to warm that prospect up now that we have an actual contact with them. So that for me has been the most successful prospecting and sales kind of tool or mechanism that I've had in my entire career of doing SEO, is niching down into a specific industry and then building a directory and doing outbound prospecting. And what happened for me was, after about a year of doing outbound prospecting, all of a sudden my directory site ranked #1 in Google. It's still there today. It's been there for almost 2 years, a year and a half at least, for tree service directory. And so now I get inbound leads. I don't even do any outbound prospecting anymore, because we get inbound leads every week from tree service contractors that want to get listed in the directory. They self-submit their listing, and then they go into our sales pipeline and they start getting warmed up through the nurture sequence. So for me, that has been the best method, is just creating the niche specific directory, doing outbound prospecting until I got enough traction with the directory for it to rank. And now it produces inbound. Now, the only reason I'm not still also doing outbound prospecting is because it's not my primary business that I'm trying to grow. So we just grow that as leads come in. I'm not actively trying to grow that agency right now. So if I was, I would continue doing outbound prospecting. When I was doing outbound prospecting with it, cold emailing was all I did. There's options to do voicemail drops and SMS, although it's getting much harder to do that. So there's a lot of different options to generate leads with that method besides cold email. I only chose cold email because tree guys, typically, they're not very tech savvy. And so therefore, but most of the time, just cold email was the best way to do it. And but when I was doing outbound emailing, I was doing 40 emails per day, 5 days a week. That was my schedule. And it was automated through High Level, was what I used. Sorry, Patrick. and anyway, the point is that was 200 emails per week. And out of that, I was getting consistently 6 replies every day. 6 replies every single day to the cold outreach. So we were processing 30 leads per week. And that was consistently, we did that for months. And I was really able to grow my agency. So for me, that is hands down the best way to do it, because you can automate most of it once you build the system. What is your take on that? Oh, and real quick, one last thing I want to mention in the process, and this is where I was saying Patrick probably has a similar approach, at least to one, part of it is in our kind of nurturing or warm up sequence after we got contact, we've confirmed that we have, direct contact with the business owner, or at least somebody within the company. We will send out a video email. So video email has been one of my best ways to generate a call from that warm lead. Like, in other words, once we confirm that we have direct contact with somebody at the company or the owner, and for tree guys, it's most of the time it's the owner, like 90% of the time it's the owner that replies. Then they go into the nurture sequence and the warm-up sequence. And part of that is we create a local search grid report showing that their Google business profile basically is not performing well in their local area, and then record a screencast video about that, showing them essentially like, hey, thanks for confirming your information for the directory. Here's what your directory page looks like. Let us know if anything needs to be changed. Oh, and by the way, something else that we do for contractors that reply is we run it's called a local search grid report to show you how your Google business profile is performing or not performing in your local area for people looking for your services. Here's what we found. The link to the report is also in the email. That makes sense. And we just show them, say, look, if you want to learn how to get better results and help you to get more exposure and outrank the top ranked competitors so that you're getting the leads, give us a call, schedule a call with me, whatever. And that was my call to action. It was always a soft call to action. Like, hey, look, no harm, no foul, no hard sales pitch. It's just a conversation to see if it makes sense for us to work together. That's my pitch. You guys just heard it. Like, that's exactly what I've done through video, email, and do that over and over and over again. And I tell you, I was able to grow my agency faster that way than any other way in 10 years of doing this. So that's my take on it. Patrick, what's yours?
Yeah, I think if you are going to, like, it sounds like by the phrasing of the question, he's really interested in this kind of like pipeline part of it. And the building out a pipeline really makes it seem like it's a machine that's going to be like automated and constantly be full. And no matter what approach you take, I think it's a long-term play by doing something like the directory method. Other strategies along this line, I think, building out, you've got your tree care HQ site, right?
Yep.
You need something that establishes that you as an authority in the industry. And it's going to take a while to do that. And it's really where you should go from the beginning. Once you've already decided this is your niche, and I wouldn't jump into a niche and like, don't kind of go nationwide in a niche until you've run around the bases a little bit. Now, the strategy of filling up your pipeline in a more manual way, regardless of what the close is, I think the heat map strategy, using the local search grid, that's the best way to close someone.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like, it elicits this kind of like emotional response from them. Most business owners are competitive when they see how they're ranking compared to a competitor, and then you can justify it with logic and emotion at the same time. You've shifted them into a buyer state. So there's a lot of different ways to build up that pipeline. I think the directory one is fantastic. I haven't done that myself, but building out a marketing site that positions you as the authority can allow you to get other opportunities, like speaking at maybe industry events. You could potentially publish your own book. One of the ways that you can get there faster is I've taught this a lot. And if you go to, like, obviously my company, I own LeadSnap, so we're big on the heat map. The reason that I have the heat map was to try to close people and understand my rankings. So I've taught this like Trojan horse strategy of going into Facebook groups and giving a gift. Imagine that I go into, maybe Bradley has a landscaping or tree services Facebook group, but imagine Bradley's not like an SEO master, but he's just like a normal like tree care person who started a group to try to build a community and help people. And I say, hey, Bradley, man, I appreciate what you've done to help out all these people, and I want to give you a gift. And I put together this video here with some strategies that you can implement. This is your heat map. This is how you're ranking in Raleigh, North Carolina. And here are 5 things that you can do to improve it. And I don't want anything for this, Bradley. I'm just trying to help out because you've helped me out with my business, and I want to give something back. That's a part of our mission. So I try to like disassociate myself from being a marketer as much as possible. And I'm just giving this gift to Bradley to teach him some strategies. Well, that video was never really for Bradley. It's for the entire group, and it allows me to have a pattern interrupt and demonstrate my expertise on like GMVs. And guess what happens? People are like, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? You got to do it in a way where you don't get kicked out of the group. You got to warm the group up, be giving value, maybe be friends with the admin a little bit. But if you do it that way, I've seen people go from, $5,000 or $10,000 a month to $40,000 a month in the course of a month, right? Which is like, this other stuff you should still be putting it into play. Those are the long-term ways to fill up your pipeline. This is a more manual way to do it, but you can get quick results this way. And I think it's fantastic. I've coached a lot of people on the strategy, and those that stick with it and get their own spin on it, they've had phenomenal results.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. You got to be persistent. And I know from our audience that too many people, they start the prospecting machine and they get a few leads in, and then they stop prospecting so they can process the leads. And then if they're lucky and they close 1 or 2 clients, then they go into fulfillment mode, and they're not constantly filling their pipeline full of leads. And that's why people struggle. And that's why people will bend over backwards and try to keep pain in the ass clients happy, because they have to cling on to that little bit of revenue that they're getting from that client. Whereas if you had a pipeline full of leads that were already interested in your services, you could let those pain in the ass clients go, or the ones that, are just an enormous, incredibly difficult projects that have all kinds of problems and things like that. Let them go, because you got 5 others behind it that are ready to pay you. That's what, make it up in volume, guys. You have to kind of squeeze the last little bit of juice out of every client when you've only got 5 clients and nothing in the pipeline. But when you've got 50 clients and you've got 150 more, 300 more in the pipeline, then it changes completely the dynamic and what you're able to do with your business and what you prioritize your time on. So that's why I've been trying to teach you guys about getting out of the, custom stuff that you guys have been doing and start productizing services so that you can scale and work on the lower hanging fruit, the projects that are going to be easier. You can't win them all. And that's my point. If you can get results 80% of the time, focus on those 80% and let the other 20% go. And that's kind of my point. Cause, I've been in the boat, guys, where I've tried to, I've had not enough clients and I've had to try to do absolutely everything I could to keep them happy. Even sometimes when there's nothing that you can do to make them happy, if that makes sense. And that sucks. That's no fun. I'm sure some of you can relate.
I'm going to real quick, Bradley, Patrick, I'm going to take the short view and say, I was just checking out the question again while you guys were talking. I think doing both of those will create an avalanche or a landslide long-term. So I'm going to say, if I'm starting over and I need clients fast, like what's the less than 90-day route, I would still recommend, because I still do this after doing it for years, is job boards. It's different. I do email marketing. I'm not going to tell you, here, go here, do this for local SEO. But getting your process down and, spending 5 or 10 minutes doing prospecting until you get it down. And hopefully you have a template within a few days or a week, maybe after the first few jobs, and then having somebody going and doing that for you. Like if you're using Upwork, you can have a team and have somebody be posting or at least sorting through all this stuff and maybe forwarding you the ones that, match your criteria, so that you're not spending an hour or 2 hours prospecting, which is a total waste of time. But you can take this stuff down to like 5 minutes and get the flywheel going in the short term that way while you're doing this stuff in the background, because that's the stuff that's going to get you, beyond 10K.
Agreed.